Yo, 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 let me speak on this. Olale. Arriba la raza. What up, y'all? My name is The Sheep, and this is The Underground Sound, the podcast for your mom's ass. And on this episode, we're going to be talking with Wisconsin wrestling promoter and DJ and all around cool dude. I'm talking about Bruno. Bruno is the owner and operator of Under the Lights Entertainment, specializing in professional wrestling in the state of Wisconsin. Works the northern area of Wisconsin as well as regions of the Upper Peninsula as well on the western half over there towards Wisconsin. And real cool dude. We had a fun conversation here. He's also a DJ, does a lot of events in that area. And we're going to talk all about the stuff that he's got going on. We're going to talk about Under the Lights Entertainment in detail, the wrestling aspect of it, his DJing, and where he wants to take Under the Lights Entertainment, where he came up with the idea for the brand itself. You know, we talk about how a lot of wrestling promotions call themselves Buttfuck Pro Wrestling or Jimmy Jam Pro Wrestling or Taco Bell Pro Wrestling, and he wanted to get away from that and be more inclusive with Under the Lights Entertainment. And we have a good conversation. I think I got a good interview out of Bruno. He's a guy that real interesting. He's got a lot of history in the state of Wisconsin, going all the way back to Wisconsin Pro Wrestling, the NWA days. If you heard the podcast I did with Jason Jerry when we talk about his career and essentially the history of pro wrestling in Wisconsin, Bruno really kind of picks up where he left off, and it's a cool conversation. We get real in depth, and it was a lot of fun. The audio is a little up and down a little bit at times. This was the last podcast I recorded before I upgraded some of the equipment here, so but it's very listen-toable. I'm just nitpicking myself, really. You might not even notice, but it was fun, man. I enjoyed it, and I like doing these kind of interviews and getting good interviews out of people, and in the long-form format. Before we get to the podcast here, a lot of news to get to. Had a real big month this month. Released the Essentials Collection, 18 tracks over the history of my career, from 2006 to 2017, over 10 years of content here. All my best handpicked tracks off every album I've done since 2006. It's a real fun collection. I'm giving it away absolutely fucking free. Kind of a way to reintroduce myself because I've been out of the rap game for a while. Just family issues and divorce and all that drama and moving. Just took a lot to get me back on my feet and get me back motivated again. And now that I'm in it, that passion for making music never goes away. So I've been working on a lot of new music. I got the Bad Guy EP coming up. Going to be released on Friday, October 13th. That one not going to be for free, but the Essentials Collection is available right fucking now. You can go to datpiff, DATPIFF.com. That is the number one place on the internet for mixtapes, and you can just search The Sheep right there on DatPiff, and it's going to be right there. Download it for free. You don't got to sign up. You don't got to pay. You don't got to do shit. Just go to it, search The Sheep, click download, and you're fucking good. And you own it, and you own all of my best tracks I've ever done from 2006 all the way up to the first single off the Bad Guy EP called Bad Guy, featuring Cranium. And we're going to go ahead and play that song here for you. I'm going to give you a peek at it right now. So we're going to play the Bad Guy featuring Cranium, and then we're going to get into the podcast interview with Bruno. Also want to plug our t-shirt store. You can go to www.shop.spreadshirt.com/Freedom Entertainment and check out our t-shirt store. You're going to find Freedom logos. You're going to find Bad Guy shirt. You're going to find Snowflake Melting Devastation, Fuck Your Feelings, Fat Lives Matter, and all kinds of other cool shit. We just got a lot going on with the relaunch. Me and Dusty have been talking a lot, going over some new projects that are music related and some that are not music related. Some might be events, some might be other shit. So we're getting busy again, and it's exciting, and I'm happy, and I want to share that all with you. So I'm going to stop talking here. Fuck your face. Listen to The Bad Guy, and then check out my podcast with Bruno right here on the Underground Sound. The podcast for your mom's ass, bitch. Say hello to the guy when I walk in the room. Chin up, got a bounce in my step with tattoos. Everybody staring at me like the fuck is you. Fuck you, motherfucker, don't got shit to prove. And I'm in a bad mood, so get out of my way. I ain't giving a fuck since way back in the day. Everything that I loved is now gone away. And I don't have a God, so I don't bother to pray. You sit back and you judge, but you ain't been in my shoes. You ain't seen what I seen, and you ain't paid any dues. And I'm sick and I'm tired of feeling nothing but pain. Reach out to the mass, but all I get back is hate. And my soul is all scarred, barely see my own self. All my innocence lost, cause this world is a hell. If you think that I care, the way you look and you stare, take a look in my eyes and see the bad guy is here. Motherfucker, you can say what you want to your life. I'ma be a bad guy for the rest of my life. We ain't coming polite, ain't politically right. Motherfucking bad guy, and we're in it tonight. Lock myself in my house to run away from the world. I don't care about shit except my kids and my girl. And you better believe I'm trying to do what I can, but I can't get nowhere. I feel like I'm half a man. All this anger and rage keeps on festering up, so I scream in your face when you're saying what's up. So you think I'm a prick, and I accept that I am. And if I die, I know I'm dying all alone with no friends. I reflect what you give, and all you give me is shit. Struggled all of my life, trying to keep it legit, but I ain't going back now. I'm going straight for the top, and I'm cutting your throat, waiting there for the cops. And when they arrive, I'm gonna blow them to shit, because I'm dropping bombs every time that I spit. You can like it or not, but it don't matter to you. Better back the fuck up and let the bad guy walk through, motherfucker. You can say what you want in your life. I'ma be a bad guy for the rest of my life. We ain't coming polite, ain't politically right. Motherfucking bad guy, and we're in it tonight.
You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say that's the bad guy.
When I step on the stage, it's all eyes on me. Meditate on the microphone and eyes on deep. Sacrificing my nights alone, reciting the ruckus. And once I step out the house, yo, that's a bad motherfucker. I won't ever give up, cause I'ma do what I love. Even if it includes just having booze at the pub. Who the fuck are you to judge what I do to be free? I don't do it for you, bitch, I do it for me. Who do I trust with my back against the wall? Stand tall, know if I stick to the plan, man, I can't fall. As an MC, I'm a hitman. Go ahead and spit then. You drooling on the mic, and I'm the type to whip phlegm the kid's tense. Spend his time on the sidelines, inventing rhymes in his mind, riding the bench till he said, put me in, coach, it's getting close to the end. That's when the fucking cockroaches said hello to his friend.
You can say what you want in your life. I'ma be a bad guy for the rest of my life. We ain't coming polite, ain't politically right. Motherfucking bad guy, and we're in it tonight.
Something nice to the bad guy. Last time you're gonna see a bad guy like this again. Come on. Get away from the bad guy. There's a bad guy coming through. Better get out of his way.
All right, we're here on the Underground Sound, the podcast for your mom's ass, and we're here with Bruno, Wisconsin wrestling promoter, owner, operator, promoter for Under the Lights Entertainment. Bruno, what's going on, man?
Just chilling, having a good time. I'm glad to be here on this podcast. I've never had a podcast before, so this is going to be definitely exciting, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of the new territory, you know, it's the new thing. Everybody's doing it, so of course I'm going to jump in and see what's going on with that. So yeah, I wanted to have you on and kind of, you know, I've been doing a lot of conversations on this show over the months with different wrestlers, promoters, one of the stories that I really like is the story of pro wrestling in Wisconsin itself. And you're certainly a huge part of that. So I want to talk to y'all about that and a bunch of other things here. First thing I wanted to ask you about is just what you got going on right now. Under the Lights Entertainment. Talk about the wrestling promotion that you're running right now. Some of the bigger names or people that you've worked with in it, and kind of what it's all about for you.
Well, we started back about 3.5 years ago, back in March of 2014, I believe it was. And actually, you were the first ring announcer I've ever had at that show in Stevenson, Michigan.
Yeah, I remember I messed up a couple of names too. I felt so bad because it's like the worst thing to do in the world. But that was fun, yeah, for sure.
You know, those weren't the only mess ups in that show. But the biggest thing is, of all the places that have a first event for a company, it was Stevenson, Michigan, and such a great town. I've been up there numerous times since then, and the people, they come to a lot of my other shows as well. Keep asking when you're coming back and everything. But the whole conception of Under the Lights Entertainment, it all starts with the name. My biggest thing was almost every professional wrestling company out there has got pro wrestling or wrestling in the title, whether it's Wisconsin Pro Wrestling or Bruce City Wrestling. And then when they use the initials, it's BCW Pro Wrestling or WPW Wrestling. And it's like, it gets to be a little redundant. And when I came up with Under the Lights Entertainment, I didn't want it to be just about wrestling. I wanted to be entertainment, and not by just professional wrestling, but other things. You're really huge into music. We kind of share that same passion. There was other things I wanted to do. I wanted to do all things entertainment. And my friend Todd, he's the one that actually came up with the name Under the Lights Entertainment. And when I first heard it, I didn't dig it. But then after a while, it kind of grew on me, and I'm like, this is exactly what I want. This is what I want for a professional wrestling company. This is what I want for an entertainment company. And it just, everything about it just is what I want when it comes to a professional wrestling company.
So is wrestling just the start with Under the Lights Entertainment? Do you plan to branch out into doing concert events maybe, or incorporating the DJing that I know that you do, or is there more to it?
Yeah, the DJing is definitely been incorporated into it. I'm also dabbled in the music already. We put on a couple rock and wrestling events. I'm starting to promote bands as well. Just a small thing on the side, and promote other events as well. I mean, Under the Lights Entertainment doesn't have to be just wrestling or just music. It can be anything. I do a lot of stuff in the community, a lot of fundraisers. And what we've done in the past is combine the wrestling with kickball tournaments and so on and so forth. And there's so many different avenues that I want UTL to be besides just wrestling.
Do you feel like at all, I guess, putting aside, when people see the flyer, obviously there's wrestlers on it, but just the name Under the Lights Entertainment, do you feel like people might not necessarily recognize that it's a wrestling show that you're promoting, or do you not worry about that so much?
I actually, that was kind of my idea. I don't want it to scream, per se, wrestling. It was the idea of the DJing and the music and everything, just everything entertainment.
Sure.
And the wrestling would be just a small part of it. The music would be just a small part of it. The DJing, event promotions, everything else that I do would be all parts put together to make Under the Lights Entertainment.
With the different charitable work that you do and working with the communities that you like to do that, does that reflect in your product as far as, like, are you a pretty squeaky clean wrestling product compared to some of the edgier ones out there, more child friendly?
It's pretty squeaky clean. It's pretty borderline right down the middle of, hey, it's a family friendly event. But then there's
you're not likely to see blood and hardcore matches and swearing and that sort of thing at a Under the Lights show.
No, I mean, we've had street fights before. We've had ladder matches and stuff like that. But it's with a purpose. It's when a feud is built up in a proper way where it has to culminate in that. And fans' eyes, that's when you see, hey, that's when it means the most. We're not just going to put a street fight out there for no reason whatsoever. The product has really got to build toward that street fight or that cage match or the ladder match or any kind of hardcore style match. That's what I truly believe what wrestling should be, is letting the story be told with everything.
What are some of your other booking philosophies as far as, do you believe in more like a babyface promotion where your top guy is the babyface and always defending against the evil bad guy? Or do you go more heel-centric where your babyfaces are always kind of chasing the top guy? What are some of your ideas as far as that goes? And as a side note, too, are you into tag teams, women's wrestling, other stuff like that?
Well, when it comes to wrestling, how I grew up, it was superheroes and supervillains, and it was almost comic book-esque when it comes to it. I mean, it was always larger than life. So to me, you got to have the strong baby face leading your company, whether he had the title or not, but leading the company along and making it more positive than anything. But you always had to have that strong heel, that strong villain, to really make that hero or the face shine. As for tag team division or women's wrestling, it's something that I'm currently working on and trying to develop. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you always have that heel faction. You get the group of baby faces that get together. But as for a tag team division, it's something I've been asked about, to getting a tag team title and really developing that division. And sometimes it just takes time. Sometimes you need to really grow that foundation or build that foundation up. Same thing with women's wrestling. You got to have a good crop of women wrestlers to bring in and to be at those shows to defend that title, to put on good, solid matches. I look at the grand scheme of things with the WWE right now with the women's movement or the women's revolution, and they're doing a great job. Charlotte and Becky and a lot of the women that are wrestling there, they're putting on excellent, amazing matches, better than they were in the past few years. And it's something that in the indie scene you don't really see too often, but it's something different that I would like to bring to Under the Lights Entertainment.
Yeah, and to be fair, from a promoter's perspective, it's harder to do tag teams and women's wrestling on the indie level because good quality women wrestlers are so few and far between on the indie scene. And so even if you were able to bring them in, it's going to kind of get repetitive. It's hard to have a big variety of a division. And with tag teams, I mean, just from the financial standpoint of putting on a wrestling show, you're paying, twice as many people for one match still. And when it comes down to dollars and cents, tag teams matches are expensive to do.
Exactly. I mean, the financial side of it, it's being a businessman like myself, I look at it at every way possible. I still want to entertain the fans, but at the same time, I got to look at my budget, and what you're putting on out there. You got to be able to afford it. You got to be able to see a return on that investment. And when you're putting 4 guys in a match, are you necessarily going to see that return unless it's something built up to that point? And as for women's wrestling, it's rare. I mean, the only woman wrestler that I know of in Wisconsin is Stacy Shadows, and don't get me wrong, Stacy is a great wrestler. She's been around a long time, and she really knows her stuff. But when you have no other women wrestlers to really work with, and then you got to bring them in from a long ways away, it gets a little pricey. But then there's the whole intergender matches and stuff like that, which I necessarily don't agree with. But when you're only a woman wrestler around, what other choice do you have?
Yeah, and you can find ways to do those. I think I don't like intergender matches when it's when the guy can hurt the woman or is bigger or tougher than the woman, and it's gonna be a violent beatdown of a woman. Where I think it could be fun and even family friendly is if you get like a real annoying, scrawny, wimpy manager, like in ECW when Bill Alfonso wrestled. What's her name there? Tommy Dreamer's wife. Then I think it's okay because the chick is, everybody sees the woman as, she's going to beat the crap out of the dude, and then he's just kind of the wimpy coward. And I think it can be a fun dynamic doing one like that, but any other way is really, kind of pushing boundaries,
Yeah, it's a fine line that you're dealing with something like that, especially at family-friendly events where, there's parents there, there's kids there, and it's something that you really got to be very leery about when you're doing that. That's why it's just so much easier if you can just bring in another female to work with a wrestler like Stacy or whatnot. It makes it so much easier from a promoter standpoint and a business standpoint to be able to do that.
Now, if I remember my eyes correctly, I believe I seen on a promotional flyer that you were gonna have a wrestling match. Is that correct? You did or are?
I did. I occasionally get in the ring and lace up the boots, as they say, but it's few and far in between. When, like I said about storylines and building a story and making it work, you also look at it as a promoter standpoint of, hey, what can you do to put some extra butts in the seats? That rivalry with Vince and Austin, nothing's going to compare to that. The evil boss and the anti-hero, so to speak. You're not really going to duplicate it to that level. But when it comes to me, there's a purpose, there's a reason. When I do get in the ring, and it served its purpose. Did I enjoy it? Most of the time. Would I do it again? It definitely is. Once you're in there, and you get behind that, the curtain when you come out and you feel that adrenaline pumping and everything. There's no other feeling like that in the world. And for me to say that I wouldn't do it again, I'd probably be lying to you.
Yeah.
It might happen sooner than you think. It might not. But every time that I've been in there, I've had the opportunity to work with great workers, Tejas, Danny Duggan, a few others. I mean, the opportunities that I've had. Even a guy like Weasel, as limited as he is being a manager, a lot of fun times with working with Weasel. Even JP, Jason Parks, getting in the ring with him. There's just the opportunities that I've had in this business before I got to be a promoter of getting in the ring was just, it was a dream of mine ever since I was a kid, becoming a professional wrestler. I wish I always wanted to be one. And, being a promoter is the next best thing. You're in that business. And there's no other feeling in the world than being in this business when it's something that you've loved your whole life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even, when I was running wrestling shows, even the first UPW show that I did, the second one all the way up until I left there, and then on the PWR shows that we did too, I always found a way to involve myself, because it's fun being in the ring, and I always ended up getting my ass kicked one way or another, because, deep down you want to be a wrestler, right? You want to experience what that's like. So even if you're not a wrestler, just being the promoter, being a manager, or any kind of on-screen or on in-ring character of some kind, it's fun to be involved and be a part of that show. So I can definitely see why you'd want to do that. Now, once you start booking yourself to be the champion and all that stuff, then you're getting a little out of there. You only have one champion, right? You have one, just the regular UTL champion, or do you have any other belts in there?
I have the UTL World Heavyweight Champion. That's Tejas right now. And also have the UTL Lights Out Champion. That would be Hot Shot Danny Duggan.
What was the name of that one?
Hot Shot Danny Duggan.
No, the belt.
Oh, the UTL Lights Out Championship.
Lights Out. I like that. Okay.
It's kind of like if you will, the Intercontinental, like a U.S. heavyweight title.
Yeah, it's a creative name for it, and a spin on the name of the brand too. Even were you a fan of wrestling always? Like, ever since you were a little kid, or when did that kind of come into the picture for you?
Gosh, being 3, 4, 5 years old, I remember watching wrestling with my uncle, watching wrestling with my grandpa a lot. That's when it first started. I remember one of the first matches I really grabbed onto was the big steel cage match with Hulk Hogan and Big Boss Man on an episode of Saturday Night's Main Event. That's when it, like, to me, it was like, this is it. I absolutely love it. I fell in love with it. And the kind of weird thing is, when I first started watching wrestling, I used to root for the heels, and I don't know why. And I think it was because you had shows like Superstars and Challenge and whatnot. And I remember the heels would go over against a jobber, guys like Million Dollar Man Ted DiBiase and Mr. Perfect. And I think the only reason I liked them is because they won. And then all of a sudden, it was when they went against Hulk Hogan, it was like, who do I root for? I ended up rooting for Hulk Hogan. But it was, ever since, I would say when I was 3, 4, 5 years old, somewhere in that age range, is when I really started really like wrestling. And as I got older, I grew more and more in love with wrestling.
How did you end up getting involved with the wrestling business?
This would have been about 2005, so it'd be 12 years ago. I started working at one of those cell phone kiosks in the mall in Green Bay, and I was there for a few weeks, and an indie wrestler that wrestled for ACW and Wisconsin by the name of Jerry Styles. I was working with him. He worked at a different location, and he came up to me one day, and we've known each other since we were in high school. We went to rival high schools, and he knew some of my cousins and whatnot he went to school with. And he knew that I was a big wrestling fan. And one night, it was a Wednesday night, he says, "Hey, why don't you come meet some of the guys? We're going to go over to the Hands and have a few drinks, and there's karaoke there and everything like that." I says, "All right, what have I got to lose, right?" So I went there, and I met some of the guys in the business, a lot of the production crew members. Jason Jerry was one of the first ones I met. Will the Thrill Stentowski was there, Eric Hero, Paul Taffmeyer, so on and so forth. And then I got to meet Jay Cash. Jay Cash was the trainer at the time, and I got to meet him and talk with him about training and whatnot. And the first show I went to it was like a week or two later. It was at Babalu's in the Pier. Got my first training session in. Got trained by guys like Don Gotti and Nick Colucci, and Jerry even helped out a little bit with it as well. And I remember that show was headlined by Alex Shelley. So being, your first ever indie wrestling event, and then you get meet a name at the time like Alex Shelley was wrestling for TNA at the time, I believe. And got to meet someone like that and talk with him a little bit. Being your first time ever at an indie wrestling event, and you got to do some training and got to be involved with the event and get to meet a name like that, it was something special. It was like, to me, it was like I knew this is what I should be doing. And the funny thing is when I was a senior in high school, junior, senior in high school, I remember watching ACW on late night TV on Saturday nights. And I always said to myself, you know, when I graduate from high school, I'm going to go to one of these events and find out how to become a professional wrestler. And the ironic thing about it was before I graduated, ACW went off the air, never saw them on TV anymore. And I figured they went out of business or everything was done, whatnot, and I just never looked into it. And one of the things I think about to this day is like, well, what would have happened if I would have went right after high school and went to an ACW event, met Mike Mercury, and decided to start training them to be a professional wrestler? Would I have made it? Would I have become a wrestler? How different my career would be if it wasn't, you know, for that decision or for that to happen, for ACW to go off the air, and then all of a sudden 8 years later, I meet Jerry Styles, and then all of a sudden it takes off from there. I think about that often. I'm like, how the littlest things could change your whole career. And to be honest, I'm glad the way it worked out. I absolutely love being the owner of Under the Lights Entertainment, starting up 3.5 years ago, and going with my vision of how professional wrestling should be more old school, should be more family friendly, and putting on events throughout the area where I grew up. And because when I was younger, I never had parents that liked wrestling or had people that could take me to wrestling events. So as I grew older, I'm like, you know, becoming more of a, you know, family oriented and an old school like that. I decided, you know, with this wrestling thing, I could bring wrestling to the kids in the community that couldn't go see WWE, or the parents can't afford to bring kids to a WWE event in town and whatnot. So it's kind of, you know, doing good in the community and doing good things like that really mean the most to me when it comes to this business.
Okay, so you got to you were there, you got to meet the players that were involved. How did it get to the point where you were actually working for the company at the time, or how did you actually break into having a hands-on role in the wrestling business?
Well, I knew the company was always looking for people that were good salesmen. I mean, Jerry was a decent salesman. He could go out and he could get sponsors, get businesses to partner up with the company, go out and find venues to have events at. Really, the paid show was the end-all, be-all of professional wrestling.
It's the holy grail of the indies, buddy.
Yeah. getting those venues and going to fairs and festivals and having them pay you to be that entertainment, like bands have done for years. Bands getting paid. You're the entertainment. You should be getting paid no matter what. And that was the goal. I mean, you really had to make that company survive. And not only survive, but flourish. So Jerry knew that I could really sell. So they kind of brought me aboard for that reason is, hey, let's help get the company sponsors. Let's help sell tickets. Let's get more places to have shows at. And not only just places to wrestle at, but have paid shows. And I started to have a little bit of success at the beginning of getting sponsors, and I remember one of the first shows, it was kind of Jerry and I collaborated on, was Pulaski and Zelensky's Ballroom. That was the first real paid show that I got, was with the help of Jerry. We went there and we talked financials, everything like that, and it just grew from there. Then eventually, Jason Jerry kind of took me under his wing, taught me a few of the ins and outs and kind of how things go, and I just sat back and listened. But I think I annoyed Jason quite a bit. Some late night conversations but I was curious and I wanted to know, and I wanted to I was really like a sponge that absorbed everything that I could. And that's one thing I learned early in the business is don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to, to go to a vet and listen. That was the biggest thing in the business is learn from the people that come before you. Not only learn what they're doing good, but learn from their mistakes as well. And that's kind of how it got me to the point to where I'm now, or got me to the point of being a promoter, is just kind of learning under Jason Jerry and really broadening my horizons when it comes to the professional wrestling business.
When you got under Jason's wings, was ACW closed down by this point? Was this now Wisconsin Pro Wrestling? Was this somewhere in the NWA days? Where does this fall on the timeline where you're working with Jason Jerry?
Well, at that time, it was kind of a weird situation. We're still doing ACW shows. They're still doing NWA Wisconsin shows, and we're slowly phasing out the ACW name. And it went from NWA Wisconsin to Wisconsin Pro Wrestling. The time that we decided to leave the NWA, I believe at the time that the NWA came under new ownership and had a new set of rules, and it wasn't really what we were looking to be under. We wanted that freedom to do what we wanted to do. So we just changed everything up and just went as Wisconsin Pro Wrestling and let the ball roll like that.
Yeah, he said there was, with the NWA, it was just kind of getting ridiculous and was no longer worth the effort worth what you were getting out of it. Now, he actually, in my interview with him, he put you over quite a bit, actually. He said that you sold great for him. He definitely credited you for helping the company grow bigger. What eventually ended up happening to where Jason left? Was there a falling out? How did you end up taking over, or what happened in that transition period? Did you even take over? How did all that work?
Well, what I remember from that happened, I remember Jason being really, really burnt out on wrestling. And it was at that time to where he kind of gave me the reins and said, here you go. He was focusing on the DJing and some other things, and he just, I don't think he wanted to deal with a lot of the drama anymore. I mean, he was still in the picture a great deal. I always went to him for advice, and then eventually got to the point to where the new owner I had a working relationship with Ron, the new owner of WPW, for a while, and it slowly transitioned to that. And the final deal between Ron and I was just different visions. He wanted to take the company elsewhere, and it just wasn't what I wanted to do. I was so passionate and so, indwelled in this business. I mean, I was doing so many things. I was, getting shows and getting sponsors and designing the posters and promotions and advertising and almost everything on my own. I mean, I was even running sound at the show. I was hauling that ring to the show. I was setting up the ring, tearing down the ring. I was doing everything I could, and I can completely identify with Jason of how he felt, but he dealt with it for 10 years. Over 10 years since the when he started with ACW, and it was just one of the biggest things is stress. Stress and drama and everything. You add that all up, and eventually you just don't have it anymore. You're just burnt out, and you just don't feel like doing anything. And combine that with the different visions that Ron and I had, we decided to move on. And then there was a time for about a couple months to where I debated whether I wanted to get into the professional wrestling or stay in the professional wrestling business anymore. I took a break, and And I had a few things come my way, and I had a few conversations with some close friends, even some family members, and just to talk about, um, hey, this is, and people tell me, hey, this is what you need to do. This is what you're all about. This is your life. This is what you love to do. It's not something that you can just give up. And after those conversations, that's what really led me to transition to UTL and start up UTL and just go from there. And the rest is history, pretty
When
much.
when you did start up UTL, did you find it hard um, competing with, were you competing for venues at that point? Were you competing with Wisconsin Pro Wrestling, or did you try to take it to a different area? Did you try to use any of your old venues? Because when you were with Wisconsin Pro Wrestling, you were co-owner of that, right? So you're running Baba Louie's, you're running all these other places that you typically run with that promotion. Is when you leave Wisconsin Pro Wrestling, is your relationship with those venues done, or how does all that work for you?
Well, what had happened is, don't get me wrong, I like Baba's. Baba's was always a great venue, but running a monthly show in Green Bay, considering that I live north of Green Bay, it would have been difficult for me, and I decided not to pursue it. But there was venues that really meant a lot to me. There was venues that I put my heart and soul into, that I knew that I needed to do something with. One of those venues was Zelensky's Ballroom in Pulaski. So much history there. So many things that we've done there. So many events. That was one of them that I wanted to keep around. But there was Mole Casino. I mean, I put my bid in there and got it. But that's long gone as well. But yeah, there was some competition there. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was some competition there, but a lot of it was I just kind of moved on and tried to do my own deal, but kept a little bit with me. Anytime that you go somewhere, even when you're switching jobs, if you're a salesman, when you go to a different place that's kind of related to what you're doing, you're still going to have those relationships with some of those business owners and those people that you work with. So there's always going to be those few sponsors or those few business people that I know, few shows that were going to stay with me no matter what. It was just, when you have everything there and a part of you is just there, you just can't let it go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. It's hard to tell sometimes because I know in those situations they can either stay with the brand that they're familiar with, or they can stay with the person that they've been dealing with, and it can go both ways, or it can cause a little bit of competition or friction there.
A little bit of a rift and anything. I mean, there's a few sponsors and a few venues that stuck with WPW, and the ones that really believed in what I was doing and my vision, those are the ones that stayed with me. So, but there's a lot of venues that I did a lot of work on my own that they really didn't know anybody else. They didn't know who else to trust. And that was the biggest thing, was trust. And in business and in life, you go with what you trust. You go with who you trust when you're doing any kind of business together.
What's your relationship like with the promoters now? I mean, in general, I think all the promoters don't always get along, but they always kind of try to work around each other, at least try to keep it civil. I've noticed it's still somewhat territorial, and there's a lot of guys that get shared, so you kind of work, try not to book shows on the same weekend as another one in the area, so that the guys are always free to work everybody else's shows. When you're bringing in names, I know you had mentioned that you're bringing in somebody from the Bullet Club. And then I noticed, another promotion is doing that too. So I'm guessing there's some hey, I'll bring him in this night, you bring him in that night, we'll split the cost kind of thing. Do you get along with the other promoters in the area good or not so much, or what's that relationship like?
The funny thing is I've always had that feeling that I was like the most hated promoter in Wisconsin, and I don't know why. The thing is a lot of the other promoters, they don't like me, and sometimes the feeling is mutual because there's certain things that just certain things that other people do you just don't agree with, and that's that. But the big thing is I try to work around their dates. I mean, sometimes you just can't do it, but there's plenty of guys around that you can work. You can have shows on the same date, and it's not really going to affect anybody. For what I do, I'm northeast Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin, a couple shows in the UP, but it for the most part is it's territorial. But I kind of I ask the guys, I ask the workers, hey, are you booked on this date? Are you free on this date? Or do you know anything going on this date? So I want to put on the best show that I can, and with the available guys that I do have. So I look at what days are available, and I check with the guys. So I respect the boundaries of the dates that other promoters work. Do I work with them really? Do I have any kind of contact with them? Little, if any.
Right.
But that's just kind of like a personal thing with me. I've always been kind of a loner. I've always done a lot of things on my own. There's few people that I trust enough to work with that I know is not going to stab me in the back, or it's just personal feelings, or business that has happened in the past, working with other promoters or anybody else really, that sometimes it just takes some time before you can do any business with them down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as you're keeping it, I think, you don't want to outright completely disrespect, try to screw over another promoter. But as long at the end of the day, as long as you're staying legit with the boys, it's not not so much important what another promoter thinks. Are the guys that are working for you happy working for you, and that sort of thing. So.
I've always tried to be fair with the guys. I'm not gonna tell them, no, I don't want you working for that guy. If you work for that guy, you don't work for me. You know what? We're all in this business together. That's one thing that's kind of bugged me about some other promoters, that, well, if you work for this guy, you're not going to work for me. You're really only hurting yourself by doing that. When you have some guys that are star attractions or can draw for you, or just good guys in general, a good hand to have, why limit yourself on that? Why cause a rift? I mean, if somebody wants to go work for someone and it's not a date that you're on, my feeling is, hey, go ahead, get all the work in that you can, get all the experience in you can, because the guys are working, the guys are wrestling to get somewhere. They want to make it to the big leagues. You know what I mean? They want to make it to the WWE or TNA or ROH, or they're just happy where they're at. But who am I to be the guy that says, no, you can't go work somewhere? It's not my place. So I'm actually for the guys. I mean, they can get as much work as they can, because I know in the long run, if they go to a different promotion outside of the state, and it's happened before, guys have made recommendations, and next thing you know, you're bringing in different guys in. That's like with the Canadians, with Danny Duggan and Travis Cole and Tommy Lee Curtis, some of the guys from Canada coming in. You get some Minnesota stars coming in. You guys got Cody Rice and a few of the other guys out in Minnesota. Cooter Bocephus has been really, really great when it comes to that. I mean, he's the one that turned me on to Danny Duggan and got him involved with UTL. Danny's a tremendous worker. Plenty of tryouts for WWE. And if it wasn't for kind of branching out like that and trying to make myself different, bringing in different talent, and not only that, but it makes your company better, but it also makes the other guys better too. Because when you bring in workers from outside this area, so the guys aren't working each other all the time, it gives them the opportunity to really learn different styles from different areas and different things that come in, and it makes everything as a whole so much better.
How hands-on are you with the product? Do you micromanage anything that goes on in the ring as far as any of the, what's going on in the match? Do you take input from the workers as far as, different storylines or things that they might want to do or people they want to work with?
Well, I've always, and that's another thing that I've learned from Jason Jerry is kind of giving the wrestlers a bit of the freedom for creativity. Me, myself, and Jason, we weren't wrestlers, but we had that business sense of where the direction we wanted to go with this. We had the beginning and the end, and then we would let the workers kind of piece those things together. There's been so many times where I've had conversations with, guys like TW3 or Joey Avalon or Tejas, and talking with a lot of these other guys about the programs that they're doing and the stuff that they're doing. You know what? You don't know as a promoter. A lot of times the way I see it, when I bring in somebody new, sometimes I don't know what to do with them. Yeah, they can put on a great match, but am I really utilizing them to their potential? And it's the same with the guys that have been around here for the longest time, guys that have been around here forever. And I've learned and developed this over time to really try to have conversations with these guys and kind of get in their mind and know what they're thinking and really to do anything we can to make that product that much better. That's why I see UTL as a really special place right now. I mean, we're not on TV, we're not really online that much, and our shows are mostly spot shows. They're sporadic, they're 30, 40 miles apart. We don't have one set venue that we're running regular monthly shows. So the storylines are really far in between, but the shows themselves are really a story in themselves, and they really, as of late, have really been hitting on all cylinders. The guys have had a great time coming to the shows and absolutely love coming here. There's a bunch of new guys that every day I get contacted. Hey, I heard good things about your promotion. I'd like to come in. And even the guys themselves, people love coming to work here. I don't know what it is, but the biggest thing is to have fun, enjoy it, and learn from each and every time that you go out there. And when you do that, that's when good things happen. That's when magic happens out in that ring, that show. That's when that those fans come up to you, man, this show is great. I mean, I was at the last show, and this one's even better. You're doing something good when you're getting that kind of feedback from the fans. And everybody in general that's out there putting this together. And I got nothing but just thank yous to give to everybody that works for one of my shows or even helps out in the concessions or in the merchandise. It doesn't matter where it is. As long as you're part of the show, big thank yous to every one of them that helps make this company very special in my eyes. And a lot of people's eyes for that matter.
Yeah, for sure. Couple last thoughts and questions here for you before we wrap up. You had said something interesting earlier in the conversation about just how when Jason felt like he had to leave because the stress was getting to be too much and just the everyday wear and tear of being part of the business, the drama. And you said the same thing, when you left Wisconsin Pro Wrestling. Give some examples of what some of the stresses and everyday drama and headaches and just crap you got to deal with being a wrestling promoter in general, from touching on business things like booking a venue all the way to drama queen wrestlers that, always got to complain about something, or, that's the kind of stuff.
Well, when it comes to the wrestlers, you kind of expect that, but at the same time, they're wrestlers. They've been around. They've worked in different places, so there's there's a line of communication. Sometimes there's communication. There's a how can I say this? A communication breakdown between a promoter and a wrestler sometimes, and that can lead to a little bit of a rift of sorts, or you're not seeing kind of eye to eye on things. And being from a wrestler standpoint, they see things differently than a promoter does when it comes to matches and stuff like that. So I fully understand. They call them drama queens and stuff like that. Whatever. I mean, it is what it is. There's
some of them can be.
Yeah,
I'll say it if you won't. I mean, no, for the most part, it's pretty cool. But I mean, there's one of the things, even just from the year or so that I was doing it, I constantly had to be accessible. If there's always a conversation that I'm having at some point with one guy or another about one thing or another. Somebody's bitching about another guy on the show, or somebody just wants to talk storylines, and that's cool, or you know what I mean? But there's always something. You're always busy texting or messaging or on the phone and trying to put out fires and just deal with shit,
And I've never, I've always had to deal with that, so I'm cool with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so the whole drama, we were all drama queens at one point, so it really doesn't matter. I moved past that point, and I try to see what the point that they're making. And there's heat between certain wrestlers, or this wrestler's got an issue with this guy or that guy or whatever. And the biggest thing is, when it comes to that, you really need them to work it out. When you come to a wrestling event and I book you, I expect you to be professional and do your job. And when it's all done, if there's an after party set up, an after party sponsor, hey, we're going to go out, we're going to have some fun. And that's a time to bond. And then I think lately, with our shows, a lot of that, the minor issues that are coming up, they're not really that much of an issue. We get it all taken care of at the after party or the next couple of days, just sit down and talk. And the biggest thing is communication. And there's a lot of things that boiled up between a couple people. And it has for me as well with certain workers or certain other people. And the biggest thing is communication. Once you start talking, we're all in this business together. I said that a few times in this interview, and it's nothing further from the truth. I mean, it's closest truth that you can get. Mm-hmm. You need to just talk and just get it all out in the air. And once you get it figured out, you're the best of buds again. But as for the stresses, and it sometimes it weighs on you. It's where's this next sponsor going to come from to pay for these turnbuckles, for a trailer to break down or a vehicle to break down that hauls your ring around. Not only that, but keeping venues happy or sponsors happy because they got upset over something that happened at a show, or they felt that they were, they didn't get enough out of their sponsorship, or whatever the case is. I mean, you're going to have that in life in general. You just got to find a way to work through it and build upon those relationships. There's been times where, in the past, where I've had sponsors kind of just, you know what, I don't want to sponsor you guys anymore. Well, how come? What's going on? And a lot of times it was just a minor fickle in communication. It's, they expected one thing, you delivered on another thing, and somewhere in between, maybe I messed up, or maybe they didn't understand quite right, or maybe they didn't understand. They expected one other thing or some other things. But you just talk with them. You get it all figured out, and a lot of times as those venues or those sponsors, that relationship got stronger because of it. But like I said, the stress is, it's when it comes down to it, the biggest part of this wrestling business is money, is the financials. Not only just paying what you have, your insurance costs, your fixing your repairs, but paying for your advertising and paying for any venue rentals and whatever that you may have. But a lot of times wrestlers feel like they, if they feel like they need to be paid more, there's always that too. And don't get me wrong, they're putting their bodies out there, they're doing their thing, and it happens. But the biggest thing is you got to really figure it out and just move on from it. And that's the biggest thing of relieving some of those stresses is communication. But as for the financials, that's when you got to get out there, just bust your butt, find more sponsors, find more ways, promote your show a little bit better, get 10 more people in those seats. That means more concession sales. It means more people buying raffles. It's everything down the line, merchandise, everything. And that's the one thing I focused on lately is trying to make the shows a bit better. I used to go from running shows from every 2 weeks or every week or whatever it was when I was running WPW to doing a show now maybe once a month, but more than likely it's once every 2 months. If you can put that much more into an event and really cover all your bases before you do that, and you're going to be successful, those stresses will go away. But yeah, Jason, when he left the business, it was a lot of it was stress. But he was burnt out just like I was, to the point to where I got where I just couldn't do it anymore. And once you take a little time away from it, you always, you get that itch to come back. People say, "Oh, I'm done with the wrestling business. I'm never going back." 6 months later, hey, I kind of miss it. But can I go back and go back on my word? And everybody gives people the business for, saying you're done with the business, now you're back 6 months later. Come on, we all love this business. We're all here for a reason. Sometimes you just need to take a break.
What's the future hold for you? What do you got in mind? Are you going to stay in the wrestling business for a while? Are you going to expand into other things? What's the future hold for Bruno?
Oh man, wrestling is going to stick with me forever, I think. No matter what, no matter how burnt out I get on it, I think it's going to be there forever. It's almost like a retirement plan for me, for crying out loud, because what are you going to do when you get older anyway? You're going to sit around, you're going to watch TV, you're going to get fat. Well, I'm already fat. So, I'm going to the gym and I'm working on that and I'm looking out for my future and everything, but, health-wise, so I can live a little bit longer on this planet and keep putting out wrestling, because it's what I love to do. Until I get to that point to where I just can't do it anymore, then I'll find something else to do. But, yeah, I love doing stuff with music, with the DJing and everything. It's just got to get better. It's got to get bigger and better every single day. The more you put into it, the more you're going to get out, and that's where I want to get. I want to be running, successful shows every time I go out there. It doesn't have to be once a week or once a month or whatever. I just know that with every show that I put out there, I want it to be a success, and I want to have fun. That's the biggest thing with this business. If you don't have fun, things are going to suck for a long, long time. And what I want this future to be is, hey, you get the next crop of guys to come up, make them in superstars, and help them live their dream. And that's what I want to continually do for a long time here. So I don't think I'm going to go anywhere anytime soon.
Right on. Well said. Bruno, it's been a great conversation with you, man. I always loved my dealings with you, ring announcing at your show, just being there, hanging out. It was fun, just getting to experience a different promotion there and, doing some ad work for you and stuff. It's always been cool. Go ahead and plug whatever you need to plug, man. You got websites, Facebooks, YouTubes, anything you want.
Well, you can always find us on the World Wide Web at UTLentertainment.com. You can find us on Facebook at Under the Lights Entertainment. I believe you can also get us on Twitter as well. That's UTL Wrestling on Twitter. But other than that, I mean, yeah, we got some shows. Railroad's got some shows on the docket. I know later this summer we're going to be at the Marinette County Fair. And later this fall we got some shows lined up already. So the future is looking pretty bright for UTL. So if you get a chance, check them out. If you look on YouTube, you can catch a few matches from some of the guys posting on there. Just search UTL Wrestling and it should come up. Other than that, we will have a YouTube channel here pretty soon once we get our shows all lined up.
Sounds great, man. Looking forward to it. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, and have a great rest of your night, man.
Thanks, you too.
It's
been a pleasure.
Take it easy. Peace. That was the Underground Sound, the podcast for your mom's ass. Peace.